Good morning, Dr. Aditya Kant. This is Dennis joining from the announcement desk.
Good morning, everyone.
Dear participants, good morning to you all. Welcome back after the short break. Now we are heading towards the technical session 5, titled Preserving Heritage Resource for Posterity, Challenges and Strategy, for which we have Dr. Aditya Prakash Kant, Assistant Professor, Center for Heritage Management, Ahmedabad University, Gujarat. Sir has got quite an impressive profile. He completed his PhD in conservation from National Museum Institute, New Delhi in the year 2018. And he holds MA in conservation of works of arts from National Museum Institute, New Delhi. And he also holds undergraduate degree honors in chemistry from Vinoba University, India. His professional experience starts from being an assistant professor from Center for Heritage Management, Ahmedabad University, and extends through being a research fellow at National Museum Institute, senior conservator at National Museum, manager, Oceans Art Private Limited, New Delhi, and much more. He has also been an educational trainee at National Council of Science Museums, New Delhi, from May till June 2003. He has been a consultant at various bodies, like providing technical inputs for establishing conservation laboratory at Bihar Museum, consultant for Income Tax Department, New Delhi, condition assessment of entire collection of Sri Sabul Museum, India. He has been awarded a research grant amounting to rupees 13,80,000 by the Ahmedabad University under the research project Green Approach for Conservation of Cultural Heritage. He has also been awarded several awards, including Indian Travel Grant to participate in ICOM CC, Getty Foundation Scholarship to visit Los Angeles, Junior Research Fellowship in Museology and Conservation by the UGC in the year 2005. His records of publication is quite impressive, being an author and co-author. With this introduction, may I now invite Dr. Aditya Prakash Kant to present his expertise on preserving heritage resources, posterity, challenges, and strategies. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Professor. Thank you very much for the introduction and for giving me the opportunity to speak on this subject on your platform. So thank all of you. So if I have I given the sharing this thing right, so I can share my PPT?
Yes, sir. Please go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, I hope the
Yes,
PPT is visible.
Yes, sir. Your presentation is visible, sir. Very well.
Thank you. To begin with, since I am a conservator, I'm an art conservator, and I also do some researches on the material conservation. Here I teach heritage documentation and conservation science. The topic, the theme of this, the 5 days program is the business perspective, the heritage management of business perspective. So I will try my best to also link with the business of the heritage management, the business perspective of heritage management. So to begin with the preservation, first we will start looking at that when we talk about the heritage, most of the times we talk about the tangible heritage, where you have all the like sculptures, monuments, textiles, paperwork, uh, wooden artifacts, everything which is composed of some material we discuss under tangible heritage, and the preservation opportunities and preservation challenges for these the heritage uh, is what I am expert of. Okay, and then we have the other set of heritage, that is intangible heritage, where the difference is that these kind of heritage which we cannot see, we cannot touch, but we can see. So they also include the material form, but they also include the expression, the various forms which we can see. Okay, so the preservation requirement, the conservation requirement of the intangible heritage is quite different than the material heritage. So the tangible heritage, so here in this layer, in this session, I will try to build a discussion on the preservation aspect of both kinds of heritage, the tangible heritage and intangible heritage. And then not only these forms I have just listed here, those the intangible heritage which have been listed by UNESCO, so which are present in UNESCO list, such as the Vedic chanting here, then the Ramayana, then the Kalbelia dance of Rajasthan, then Kutiyattam of Kerala, then Sankirtan of Manipur, then Chow dance of so the West Bengal and the central India. Then also here is the Ramam, a festival of Uttarakhand. So basically these all means are listed as World Heritage Site, the World Heritage, intangible World Heritage. Okay, the status given by UNESCO. Apart from that, there are also many sort of heritage, like the geological heritage and many archaeological heritage, many other kind of heritage that we can think of, natural heritage, that comes under the purview of heritage, and we need to look upon at the preservation concern of all those kind of heritage. So we will begin with here with that. First, what we want to actually preserve. Why do we want to preserve? What actually drives us to do the preservation? Basically, when we look at the like tangible heritage to begin with, or intangible heritage, we see what we are going to preserve is the preservation of value. The other things comes much later. First is the preservation of value and the preservation of authenticity. Preservation of value and preservation of authenticity, that matters most when we talk about the preservation of heritage. These two, the words, the value and authenticity, is of utmost importance, because until we attach the heritage with some value, we as a public are not going to take any care of that. So I can see there is a hand raised. So yeah, we can take the question. So Bireswaji, can you please ask the question if you have any? Yeah, I can see a hand raised, Bireswar Pradhan. So if you can come in and ask or say something, whatever you want to say. So what we can do while discussing on this, we can also have some comments or any questions if they come by during these slides. Okay. So we were talking about the value. So first we have to, first and foremost, the prerequisite of heritage preservation is to attach value to the object. Otherwise, if there is no value attached, and what kind of value? The value can be the tangible value, it can have like spiritual value, it can have architectural value, it can have historical value, it can have archaeological value, it can have aesthetic value, it can have sentimental value, any value. Unless we attach the value, we cannot appreciate heritage and we cannot think about protection, preservation. The classic example is the demolition of Bamya Buddha. Now the world recognizes the Bamya Buddha as one of the great example of heritage. But the local community is totally detached with that heritage. And that's why we see the demolition of such 2nd century BC gigantic rock cut sculpture in Bamya Buddha. So there are numerous example of such things. So first we have to establish the value. Once we establish the value, then we have to look for the authenticity. Authenticity means what? Whatever we are preserving, does this give the authentic information of heritage? So we will build further discussion on the value assessment and authentication. And all the further slides will be based on these two things, the value assessment and the authentication. Only then we can make any further effort for the preservation of heritage. So to begin with, I will discuss in the beginning about the heritage conservation is an interdisciplinary approach. What do I mean by that? When we talk about the heritage conservation and preservation, we have to means anyone. There are several stakeholders who can play a significant role in addressing the conservation and preservation issues. Okay, all sorts of, either it is historian or a scientist or an urban planner or architect, community, all sort of stakeholders can participate in the conservation process. And that is why we say that heritage conservation is an interdisciplinary field. As we discussed, that why it is needed, because it aims to protect history, continuity, evolutions, and changes of heritage for future generations. The conservation helps in maintaining the authenticity. Why heritage conservation is important? Conservation of for building the pride and identity, because when we preserve our heritage, it gives us some kind of pride and some kind of identity. So heritage is associated with the identity of an individual or a community or a state or a nation. Okay, so it is heritage conservation is more than the protecting the history. Okay, and the also heritage conservation has the potential to to
Dear participants, kindly hold on. We are trying to connect with the resource person. Kindly hold on. Please bear with us. Participants, we would like to share a few information here. The Q&A session will be initiated at the end of each session in order to allow the resource person for uninterrupted presentation. If you have any questions, you can then and there post it in the chat box, which will be answered by the resource person at the end. If the resource person volunteer a break for questions, you may proceed ahead. So kindly understand this. The Q&A session will happen once the presentation of the resource person comes to an end. So we have just contacted the resource person. He is joining shortly. Kindly hold on for a second. And this is also for your reminder that the attendance link will be open only for 15 minutes. And then after that, you may not be allowed to access the link. No, we don't have any separate feedback here. There is a question in the chat box. There is no separate feedback. The feedback will be posted at the end of each session, and it is also referred as the attendance form. Yes, I think we have got a resource person back. He has joined again.
Yeah, is this visible?
Yes, sir, visible, sir.
Okay, I'm sorry. Actually, Zoom has a habit to throw someone randomly out of the meeting.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It happens.
So I could not. No problem. Yeah. So just give us one. Yeah, so I think we were here. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. So we are just discussing here is that the heritage conservation also has a potential for the job creation and poverty alleviation. And so the ICOMCC definition of the ICOMCC is the Committee for Conservation, and it has the definition for the conservation. If you look at that, so all measures and actions aimed at safeguarding tangible cultural heritage while ensuring its accessibility to present and future generations. So conservation embraces preventive conservation, remedial conservation, and restoration. Yeah. So here means we can see there are three words means given here in the definition of conservation is that the preventive conservation, remedial conservation, and restoration. So preventive conservation, the remedial conservation is what when something is already damaged, something is already lost, and we repair with the lost area, we repair the damaged portion, is called the remedial conservation. The is called restoration. The remedial conservation is that if there is some damage, So how to stabilize the damaged portion, the damage, so that the damage doesn't progress any further. So we are making the damage stable. So that means there is no progression of the damage, there is no widening of damage any further. Whereas preventive conservation is of utmost importance, is that the preventive conservation aims at minimizing the future damage. The remedial conservation and restoration talks about the current damage, that damage has already happened. But the preventive conservation talks about all the effort that we bring in, so that there is no future damage, or the minimum damage can take place in future. So how do we do is that the preventive conservation entails that, suppose if we are talking about the tangible heritage, we should not touch the artifacts. We should not touch the artifacts. So if we do not touch the artifacts, then how we are going to preserve it? How we are going to preserve it? So if you look at the examples of preventive conservations, are appropriate measures and actions for registration, storage, handling, packing, transportation, security, environmental management, emergency planning, education of staff, public awareness, and legal compliance. It means preventive conservation tells us that we should do all sort of things, okay, surrounding the artifact, so that there is minimum to negligible damage can take place in future. I'll just tell you, take you to a little into the history of the progression of the conservation field, conservation profession. Is that, like in the earlier decades, older decades, the idea of conservation was just like a fill in the blanks activity. When we say fill in the blanks activity, what we mean by that is that earlier what was like, if there is a loss, you fill the loss. If there is a damage, you fill the damage. Okay. So if you see somewhere in a monument or any site, if there is some loss or damage, so you bring the compatible material and you just fill that. You just do that. If there is a plaster loss, fill the plaster. If there is a gap, fill the gap. So these were basically the fill in the blanks type of activity, which which constituted conservation decades ago. But slowly the conservation profession emerged and became more complicated and more encompassing of the other things. So I'll tell you, like, in what happened in after the First World War. So in the First World War, during the First World War, the most of the artifacts that were present in the European museums, okay, especially if I take the example of Britain, so they used to keep bring all the artifacts under the tunnel. There were several tunnels in London. So they took most of the artifacts from the British Museum, Victoria and Albert Museum, and all other the big museums, and they brought everything under the tunnel, because there was a fear of bombardment, aerial bombardment by the enemy group. So what happened that in 1930, like 10 years after, when the First World War was over, the tunnel, they put everything, they took care of the tunnel very well. But even then, when they surveyed their collection, what they found is that the stone sculptures gathered the salt, and so salt related problems existed in the stone sculptures. Even after taking care, maintaining the proper upkeep and cleanliness, then the organic objects like paper and the textile gathered the fungus, metal objects, metallic artifacts gathered corrosion, they were corroded. So that actually raised lot of questions. Since in the tunnel, those even after doing all the proper upkeeping, why did the organic artifacts gathered fungus and mold? There was mold growth. why the stone sculptures gathered the salt related problems and erosion and exfoliation, why the metallic artifacts gathered the corrosion and they became corroded. So then lot of the British government means hired lot of scientists and other means experts into that to study the material, all these study the materials. So they did exhaustive study of the nature of the material, the composition of the material, their behavior in the particular kind of surroundings, their environmental factors responsible for what kind of damage. And then when the Second World War broke out, so they were very much prepared. By that time, they were very much prepared with all those information. And so they did all those means preventive measures in those tunnels. So after the end of the Second World War, when the survey means they conducted survey, they found most of the artifacts were in very good condition. There was very less to negligible damage. So then they realized so that if we can maintain the environment, we can preserve most of the artifacts. So they maintained the temperature, they maintained the relative humidity, they maintained the exposure from lightning. Okay, so those things actually help a lot in safeguarding all those the tangible artifacts. And then several type of exhibitions started being conducted of all those post Second World War. All those kind of exhibitions where everything, the light conditions were taken means care of, the humidity was controlled, the temperature was controlled, the pollutants were controlled, the pest infestations were controlled. Okay, so it was realized that if we do not touch the material artifact and if we work around the surrounding the artifact, we can still manage to a great extent. We do not have to even touch the artifacts and we can safeguard those artifacts for a very long period of time. And from there, from 1950s, we see a lot of standards for preventive conservation, lot of standards for conservation started being written. And since then we see a lot of the improvement in the conservation field. So I'll just show you one of the recent gallery photo of 2016. This is of National Museum, where I was senior conservator in 2016. So we took part in the Parjor exhibition. Parjor exhibition was the Ministry of Culture exhibition. They wanted to conduct celebrate the Navroz festival of Parsi community. So National Museum garments collected lot of artifacts from various institutions from India and from abroad, 20 international institutions, including from the UK, France, Russia, all those. So that was a challenge we had faced, like how to, and also for the international loans, they had a very stringent conditions for loan conditions, that you maintain a temperature at 22 degrees C or 21 degrees C and with no fluctuation. Then you maintain the relative humidity at 50% RH with very little fluctuation between 5%. So it should not the range should not be from beyond 45% to 55% RH, something like that. So it was a challenge for us, and we eventually, after doing like 5-6 months of research on which way we can exhibit all those materials, so that we can build some confidence to our international lenders also. So you can see here we got the lighting conditions. The lighting, these are the LED lights with the fan here. So this emit no ultraviolet radiations, no heat buildup. So it gives a pure, just white light and with no means factors responsible for any kind of damage, because light is also a form of energy. And if any object is exposed to a sufficient period of time, so it may damage the artifact, especially the organic ones. And we had a lot of the ancient manuscripts here. The handwritten manuscripts were means exhibited. And then we also got this climate controlled showcases where we could exhibit our means the artifacts. So this is just one of the example of the preventive conservation, how we address, because these the factors by maintaining the surroundings rather than working on the object. Now, to come forward after the understanding the preventive conservation, so what we see when we talk about the heritage, okay, so I'll tell you that the first World Heritage Site, World Heritage Site, which was given the World Heritage status by UNESCO, is the Ajanta Caves. Now, why is Ajanta Caves so famous for? So if you have any question in between, please ask so that we can have discussion. I see one. Yeah. So Ajanta paintings. So we have to think, like Ajanta is in the mid of a jungle. Ajanta is in mid of jungle in Maharashtra, in Aurangabad district. Okay. And if you visit to Ajanta, the mid of the jungle, there are 29-30 caves in which excellent examples of the Indian paintings are residing there. And you may be surprised to know that the 2nd century paintings are still existing. So it tells us, about our ancient means the past, how glorious our ancient past were, how skilled, how means knowledgeable our means ancient artisans and artists were. So they could produce such kind of artifact which could survive for not only centuries, for the millennia. And so we become proud of. So we say generally that the Ajanta paintings, and we also say that the birth of Indian art started from the Ajanta paintings. This is the Padmpani, the painting, very famous painting you will see in various publications. And then if you look at the 2000 rupees note, you will see on the back and the lower bar, there is running this this motif. And then Ajanta carpet, who does not know, the Ajanta carpet is famous because of the paintings in the ceiling of Ajanta. There are so many the decorative patterns painted, from where the Ajanta carpet idealized the taking the designs from there and became famous. And if you talk about the 3D paintings, Ajanta is the first place where we see of 2nd century, the first 3D painting. If you look at the bull is almost like looking at you, like charging at you. So it gives us the first 3D image, okay, in painting. That's why we say, and this, if we remember, if some of you remember that in 1996 in Bangalore, Miss World contest was held, and Aishwarya Rai was the brand ambassador of Miss World contest, and she dressed up like this. So this if you look at the Aishwarya Rai's picture and you match with that, she actually copied this image, jewelries and the coiffure and the turbans, means the tiara, whatever is that. So this is in the front of one of the caves. I think it is in cave number 10. So what I want to impress here is that you look, this is the Ajanta painting, is the priceless artwork. If we have to assess and attach some kind of value, how will we attach the value? This is not precious, this is just a priceless artifacts. Then we talk about, if in priceless artifact, then I'll take you to the modern paintings. So modern paintings, when you must be reading the many newspapers where often we see that this, or in this auction, one painting fetched this much crore in this auction, this painting fetched this much crores. So one painting can fetch like 30 crore and 35 crore, something like that. Because if you look at this figure, the 23.7 and 26, this is the hammer price. Because I have worked for 10 years in the art auction house, so I know the how the business happens of the Indian and antiquities and Indian and modern contemporary art. So this is the hammer price. On that, the 20% is the buyer premiums attached, and then you have the GST attached. So 38% you can calculate on the top of this the price. So you and understand the one painting can fetch this much, how precious this painting can be. So in one hand we had the priceless the art, and one hand we have this so much precious object. And it is also said that the a human being, the most precious thing a human being can possess is the paintings. So in front of a painting, all the gold and diamond have no worth, you know, in the front of one painting. And that is why it is said that the human being can possess the most expensive thing. It is the paintings. So when you think that if a painting can cost this much, how much the owner, either it is a gallery or an individual collector or is a museum, how much they will put effort into the preservation of those artifacts. So we have to look into this, the requirement of preservation, because so much value is added here, so much value is attached here. And you know, I'll just also tell you that this is not the face value of the painting, like the gold. You know, gold has a face value, it's a material value. This means the paintings doesn't have any face value or material value. It is the artist's reputation. It is the artist's reputation that actually fetches so much price in the market. And that is why we say that this type of business is the economy, or we say economics of prestige, where the prestige drives the economics. So prestige, the economics of prestige, I would say that. So when you have so much the price involved, you know, then you have to also deal with the fakes and forgeries, because everyone in the market tries to fetch the benefits from that. And so what happens is that you have so many fakes floating in the market. Now the big challenge is how to identify, how to distinguish between authentic object, authentic artifact, and the fake artifact. Because there are so many, because everyone realizes the importance, the value of the artifact. Either it is modern contemporary painting or it is antiquity. We always hear some kind of illicit trading, some kind of smuggling happens, and lot of smuggling happened in past from lot of our temples and other places. So, you know, everyone understands the economic implications, economic value of those artifacts. So you see there are so a lot of fakes and forgeries also floats in the market, and therefore the study of preservation becomes so important. I'll just bring one case study here. What is the importance of the authenticity and value assessment is this, that the this is a case of Bangladesh. So Bangladesh government and the French government had a collaboration. French government wanted to celebrate an exhibition on the Buddhist art, the Asian art. And on Asian art, they wanted to collect the Buddhist and the Hindu sculptures, okay, from the Asia. So they collaborated with India, they collaborated with Pakistan, they collaborated with Bangladesh. So this is the case study of the Bangladesh. You know what happened, that So French government, when French government means collaborated with Bangladesh, so Bangladesh wanted to send some of the Buddhist and the Hindu sculptures to Musée Guimet in France for the exhibition. But all the problem started with some means the radicalists and from Bangladesh, they started raging means lot of means protest against the government that those sculptures, the Buddhist sculptures and the Hindu sculptures, don't belong to their tradition, their culture, their religion, and that is why means Bangladesh should not send these kind of artifacts which do not means belong to means which do not reflect their tradition, their culture, and their religion. That was first protest means but more than that, that was just subsided very quickly. More than that, Bangladesh public started looking this collaboration at lot of suspicion, and the suspicion was that the insurance value that was attached with these artifacts. So whenever we send something or we take some objects, the international loaning happens, every artifact carries some kind of like insurance. So when the French government dealt with collaborated with the Indian government, all the Indian artifacts that was insured at a very high value. But when the French government collaborated with the Bangladesh government, they did not insured their artifacts with whether their artifacts were insured at a very low value. So the public became the government, the Bangladesh public became very, very suspicious. What is the nefarious intention of the French government? They might not return the actual, the original, the authenticated the original artifacts, and they might return us copy. And we do not know, we do not have the skill to identify. We do not have the skill to identify the authentic one. What will we do? So there are a lot of protests started happening, and there was a lot of publications, newspapers, public articles started being written in newspaper, and this is one of the newspaper. So this is looking at the French government is when they are returning. So the Bangladesh government is just confused which object they are how to authenticate that this is the original one. And because of that, what happened, so the collaboration became very, very tense. And in one of the meeting, the Bangladesh government, the Bangladesh ambassador to France actually collapsed in the meeting and died because of such a tense situation happened because of this collaboration, where the French government thought that it is just to insult the French government, and Bangladesh thought that the French government will not give us, they have very nefarious design in their mind. So this actually, the collaboration went very haywire. And finally, what happened also, there are two terracotta sculptures. These two terracotta sculptures, when they were about to load in the airport handlers actually stole these two crates, two artifact, the terracotta crates. They thought, because this was in a great news in Bangladesh, so they thought that there is some very, very precious item is traveling to France. So they stole both crates. When they opened the crates, they found just the terracotta sculptures, and they became very, very disappointed by looking only at the terracotta pieces. So they broke the terracotta pieces, those are the airport handlers, and they threw this into the pond. So after a lot of the criminal investigation and other investigation started, they could finally found some broken pieces of these two artifacts. So these two artifacts are no more because of there was lack of awareness. There was no awareness of the importance. So until we understand and attach the importance of the object, until the public attaches or public realizes the value, the authenticity of the object, it becomes very, very difficult, and it can create a lot of conflict between different parties. Just one thing more regarding the tangible part of the preservation issues is that this sculpture is Leda and Swan in the Getty Museum in Los Angeles. So this Leda and Swan sculpture is very ancient sculpture of some BC. What happened that this was in broken condition, so it was restored. So the restoration happened and it was restored like this. Okay, but in 1976 there was a lot of the debate started about the valorizing the authenticity. So if we have restored the artifact, how much authenticity is left in the artifact? How much authenticity is left in the artifact? So there were a lot of debate happened because we have added some materials, we have restored the artifacts, so it has lost its authenticity. So then the object, the sculptures were de-restored and de-restored and brought back like this. So it was first it was restored and after 2 centuries it was de-restored to bring the original material back. But when we were de-restored, again there was debate started. Do they have any importance now? Any historicity now? They are the material. So what is the material only that gives the authenticity, or is the whole the thing that gives the authenticity? So there was a lot of debate started in the 70s and 80s about how much authenticity a material can have. Okay, so it is the historical authenticity that is important, or it is the material authenticity that is important. Okay, so this is a classic case. The two, like in 1800 something, it was restored, and again in 1976 it was de-restored to bring back the original material, and then again it was re-restored after identifying the losses. So this is a very classical example of how we valorize the authenticity. Just one thing more, like when we say about the how much preservation can help in attaching the value and the economic value to the artifacts, to the heritage materials. We look at here. This is the Salvator Mundi by Leonardo da Vinci. It was lie in the godown and it was very in bad shape. After the restoration in 2017, the Sotheby's exhibition, okay, in New York, this was brought under hammer, and you'll realize that in this auction, this one painting fetched $450.3 million in Christie's, in the Christie's auction. This one painting fetched this much, and this became the record price in the art market. Okay, so how this earlier it was like lying unrestored, and it was lying idle in some godown, this painting. But when the restoration of this painting happened, after that this painting was realized, this much economic, that this painting has so much the economic potential. One painting can get this much of price. And so the lot of also again the controversy started about that, is this Salvator Mundi is the genuine one? So many said that no, Salvator Mundi is not the genuine one, it is just a copy or it is something else. Then the conservation science, after analyzing the materials, analyzing the materials, it was finally established that the materials used for the making of these paintings are very similar, very same to the actual Leonardo da Vinci's other paintings. And so it was established that the painting is the genuine one. It is now in Saudi Arabia, or some in Qatar, Doha, in Louvre Museum in Qatar. Louvre Museum, yeah. In Qatar, this painting is exhibited. It was bought by some the Qatari king, Qatari or Saudi. This is bought by them. So actually here the conservation science played a very decisive and significant role in addressing the authenticity issue. So when we discuss about this kind of materials, artifact means, and if we have to distinguish between the fakes and the authentic ones, what are the skills, what are the things that is available to us? Most of the times it is, especially when we look at the Indian context, it is the connoisseurship which actually helps in the distinguishing between the the authentic and the forged ones. Connoisseurship is connoisseur. A connoisseur is a person who has who has experience of seeing a objects, a range of a particular kind of objects, a range. So means because he has seen, he has means experienced a range of artifacts of that a particular kind. So it is his sixth sense that ables to judge and distinguish between the authentic ones and the fake ones. So we say that, like the connoisseurship is a significant tool actually. It is all about the educating an eye, and it is the sixth sense that helps to judge and differentiate between the authentic and the forged ones. And it is the only expertise at the moment available which can give us some qualified opinion about the authenticity of the tangible heritage. Whereas, this is, since it is all about the sensing, so it is highly subjective and unscientific. And it sometimes, it also depends on the subjective judgment of the connoisseur. And if a connoisseur make sometimes a mistake, a single mistake can turns into blunder, So then you need to have also combine this connoisseurship with some technical analysis, some technical studies to ensure that there is no such kind of mistake, blunder can happen, and to be in differentiating, distinguishing between the fake forged ones and the authentic ones. So we also see that after that, because of the so much value the heritage has, you see the lot of illicit trades, that you will see happens on the national market and international market. And we have also different sort of rules and regulations are in place, but even then we see there are this kind of things takes place. So this problem is not which can be solved just by the state or one sector alone. We need to have a monitoring group, which can monitor those means type of illicit trades. Okay. And we should also means form a forum for means of heritage professionals who can share and exchange the experiences. Okay, so that we have a means a pool of experience, pool of experts. At the moment we do not have a such a means channelized pool of experts which can collectively give a qualified opinion on and identifying the illicit trade. So we need to means work on that, so that we can means manage and we can bring this illicit trade down as much as possible, because this gives a very means ugly picture also. And once one heritage material is lost, a historicity is lost, a portion of history is lost, and therefore we must stop this illicit trade of the cultural heritage. And what we can also do, we can manage those kind of in preventing these kind of illicit trade by management through acts. So I'll take you some of the and also by the public awareness. Okay, so we have to create also public awareness about the how to not means how to prevent this illicit trade. I'll take you once to some like one of the Antiquities and Art Treasure Act 1972, which clearly established what you can trade outside, what you can export, what you can import. Just give me 1 minute, please. Yeah. So This the Archaeological Survey of India, these they have this rule, Antiquities and Art Treasures Act, and they look into that, and they have a very detailed and very specific information about what we constitute as an antiquity, like any coin, sculpture, painting, other works of art or craftsmanship, any article, objects or thing detached from building or cave, any article, object or thing illustrative of science, arts, crafts, literature, religion, customs, moral or politics in bygone areas, or any articles of historical interest, or any article which central government has declared this as antiquity, even they don't fall in the purview of the antiquity, but it has been declared, it has been notified by some official gadget by the central government of India, that can be considered as antiquity. And when we declare this something antiquity, then we cannot export it. Okay, so the criteria for the antiquity is that it should not be less than 100 years. But in the case of the handwritten manuscripts, the criteria is 75 years. So in all the other means criteria for the other artifacts, it is that the objects should be over 100 years old. And for the manuscripts or any written document, handwritten document, the criteria is that it should be over 75 years old. Now, means also, like if anyone means has any kind of the old items in their possession, they must actually get registered with the Archaeological Survey of India. They have licensing officer, and they get the license, they get the registration certificate of those objects to keep in their possession. Otherwise, it will become illegal. So the legality is also in question, and therefore this is in place. And when everything is registered and listed, so you cannot export it, because we have also the Archaeological Survey of India officials present at the customs at the international airport. But still do some kind of these things happen, but we need to prevent that. Then we have to also think about the art treasure, like some paintings which is not 100 years old, but the government has notified, as we discussed. So government has notified like the 10 contemporary artists whose artworks cannot be exported out, like three brothers, Rabindranath Tagore, Avninath Tagore, Gaganinath Tagore, then Sailoj Mukherjee, and then Nicola Roerich, then Amrita Shergill. So there are 9 artists whose artifact we cannot export it. Okay, so whenever, like especially like since I worked in art auction house, so we knew a lot of implications of dealing with artifacts, especially the antiquities. So one must be very careful about doing any kind of business with these things. And you need to have a proper license to deal. Even we in India, you need to have a proper license. The Archaeological Survey of India gives 2 years selling license. Then apart from the tangible heritage, when we deal about the preservation of intangible heritage, the all set of preservation things that we discussed so far, okay, is totally different here. Totally different when we talk about the intangible cultural heritage, where it is more important is the cultural expression that has to be preserved. It is the traditional knowledge that has to be preserved. Okay, that has to be preserved. So the all set of the preservation things that we so far discussed, we need to relook into that. Here the first thing is that since there is no material involved, it is the cultural expression and the traditional knowledge that we have to safeguard, actually, that we have to preserve. How we can preserve? Say for example, if someone knows, suppose the Podium dance form, okay, or Kutiam dance, and the theater. So the heritage professionals in the tangible cultural heritage, we can means build some kind of conservators, conservation scientists, or conservation architects who can deal with the artifacts and the monuments and etc. sites. But what about the preservation of the intangible heritage? No, we cannot means preserve their cultural expression. What we can do, we have to, the community, the individual who holds this this heritage, this help, we have to means provide them tools. We have to provide them tools so that they can preserve their heritage. Suppose dance means a heritage professionals cannot become the means Kutiam dancer to preserve the Kutiam form, okay, or any other Kalbelia dance or the Vedic chanting or any Chow dance, whatever. The heritage professionals has to means facilitate the knowledge bearers, the cultural expression bearers, facilitate them in such a way that they can preserve their intangible heritage. And then what happens that then the rule means I'll also explain a bit about the patenting and the intellectual property right also comes into that, when we have to also safeguard that traditional knowledge. Suppose I'll just give you an example. Suppose a community has a specific knowledge of some medicinal value of certain plants, and only those community know about the medicinal value of these certain type of plants, okay. How to help the community in preserving that knowledge? There is a great challenge there. So first is that we need to involve the stakeholders. And who are the main stakeholders? The main stakeholder is the community itself. Say for example, the older generation has all those knowledge about the medicinal importance of certain type of herbs, certain type of plants, but the younger generation don't know, because younger generation don't want to carry that profession. They want to do the modern jobs. They don't want to carry that. Who will carry? The next generation is not ready to carry. Who will carry? How this will be protected? And the moment some corporate identifies the medicinal value of the herb, they will take the knowledge, they will do the patenting, they will patent the knowledge, and then they will produce the products on the basis of that knowledge, and then they can make a lot of profits. But the actual community from where the this information belonged to, okay, from where the knowledge came from, they became deprived of this knowledge and they will feel cheated. So there are a lot of issues in preservation of that kind of knowledge, preservation of that kind of cultural expressions. And then there we have to as a heritage professional, we have to facilitate them in documenting their knowledge. And there are several benefits of the documentation of the knowledge, so that no one else can copy that, okay. But documentation itself, there is also some risk when you document this kind of knowledge which belong to just one community, okay. So then the documentation is available now in the age of social media. Documentation becomes available to everyone, and anyone can take the benefit of that documentation. So we need to also take care their interest, so that if there is some the economic benefits has to be derived we have to make sure that this community is not deprived of that benefit. And therefore we need to help the community in getting the intellectual uh, property rights, okay, intellectual property rights, and also the some kind of patenting the knowledge, patenting the knowledge. So why is this important? Like this means this is in the 2003 UNESCO convention. The UNESCO has identified that we must means oblige to the parties, okay, the community, to the parties, the knowledge bearers actually, to document this the traditional knowledge and traditional cultural expressions as a means to safeguard this cultural heritage. So what we have to do is, through the documentation, we have to ensure the maintenance of that knowledge. We have to ensure the use of that knowledge, and we have to also ensure the development of that knowledge by the present and future generations, because we have to also ensure that the future generation, the present generation and the future generations acquire this knowledge, and they feel that means they have this traditional knowledge from their generations. They also feel attached to that knowledge. They also feel attached to that value that their ancestors had, okay, which will help in continuing, in sustaining that traditional knowledge. Okay, so therefore the safeguarding becomes very, very important, and there where we have to help them in getting some kind of like intellectual property right, or getting things patented in some. So we have to facilitate, as a heritage professionals, we have to facilitate the knowledge bearers who can take care of their heritage, because only they are the knowledge bearers. They can take that forward, they can sustain their heritage. Okay, so we will shift to next. Then we have to also, as I discussed, that the documentation may lead to misuse or unwanted disclosure of the traditional knowledge and traditional cultural expressions, is that we have to make sure that whatever the document, during the documentation process, the heritage professionals or those who are facilitating the documentation process should not take the advantage of that. Okay, so you have to have a PIC, means the prior informed consent has to be taken. So the informed consent is very much required. So I'll come about the informed consent. In prior informed consent is very much required from the community before any kind of like the documentation effort is made there. The importance is that, like suppose the generation who has this, the older generation who have this knowledge, but they are not fluent in the like Hindi or English or any language in which they can document. They have in their own knowledge, but if their younger generation they know the today's knowledge, okay, in which things can be documented, so that can be recorded and that can be translated, okay, in such a way that there is no loss of information from oral documentation to written documentation to translation. So there is no loss of information. The information travels in different modes. The correct information travels and correct information is documented. And it is also the ethical obligation of the heritage professionals not to take the advantage. And so they have to tell what are the pros, what are the cons of documentation, what are the benefits attached, what are the risks attached with the documentation process. Because as I discussed, that when the documentation of traditional knowledge and traditional cultural system happens, it also means leads to loss of secrecy or confidentiality that may result from documentation, and it could harm the interests of traditional knowledge holders, while subsequent use of documented may infringe the moral rights of their custodians or may lead to misappropriation. So means we need to devise in such a way that means it can be defended, the traditional knowledge can be have the defensive protection, and it can have also the positive protection. Positive protection means is that means the knowledge is protected, but knowledge is also used and is used for the future, is used for the benefit, is used for the benefit of the society, to means alleviate from their poverty, to also get the economic benefit, or the all the other kind of like benefits that the community can get out of that use. Okay, so there are some of the tools like digitization and software tools that can support the protection. Okay, so I'll just pass here. Yeah, any question by so far, so that we can have a brief discussion on. Yeah. So so the all the idea is that the traditional knowledge and traditional cultural expression, it is that they are the actual knowledge holders, and they have to carry on their tradition, they have to sustain that, they have to preserve their own heritage. We as a heritage professional only can facilitate that, and we should be seen only as a facilitator. And here in this the initiative should be the community led initiative. So it when we involve the community, okay, as a main stakeholder of this kind of the documentation initiative, okay, it create rights and recorded materials that are not necessarily vested in traditional holders. So okay, so this all tells about that the how to take care of the patenting thing, how to take care of the intellectual property rights, and also there are some guidelines provided by the World Intellectual Property Organization about how to go ahead with the ensuring the intellectual property right. Okay, how to, because this is not generally the laboratory synthesized something which comes from a laboratory and you just go and get patented, Indian patent or US patent. Here thing is very, very different. The knowledge is already there. Now who will take the claim, who will stake the claim of that, and who will get patent? This is not that easy. Let me tell you one thing that recently I just a couple of days before I read in one newspaper, like when we were children, we used to given punishment in school to do sit-ups with keeping our hands like this, 10 sit-ups like this. Okay, it was a very general punishment of our like 1980s, 90s. 90s I was in college, but in 80s. So we had this very general a type of punishment to keep hands like this and do 10 sit-ups or 20 sit-ups. Now recently I read in US, they are saying that this kind of exercise is the brain yoga. So can you understand that now if US patents that, how will we defend our this knowledge? Because this knowledge is pervaded across the society, across the nation. Okay, like we did not we had a lot of information about the medicinal importance of haldi, turmeric, but the US want to patent it. Okay, so problem is that when we know some knowledge, it is so much in use, in everyday use, we forget to patent it. And when we forget to patent it, that becomes problem. It is the everyone's property. Everyone can go for patenting. And so patenting process, okay, to have a intellectual property right, okay, is very challenging, is very challenging. And therefore this the World Intellectual Property Organization, they have given certain guidelines which can help in addressing this kind of patenting issues. Because in this is not means like the laboratory synthesize something which only you know the know-how, and you can easily get patented your thing. Okay, therefore a lot of issues, lot of conflicts do arise in in doing all those kind of addressing this kind of IP rights and patenting process. So we also know that means since when we have to take care of the community, we have to means the empower the community in order to sustain the heritage, in order to the protect the heritage, and also to help the to let the community decide the value of the heritage. Suppose sometimes we can attach something where we can means say that okay, this object this thing has this value and we must bring in and document it, but the community the community doesn't want that thing or that aspect of heritage be attached with some kind of value. Because what I want to tell here, I want to discuss here is that look, heritage is, there are also some good heritage, there are also some bad heritage. So there are good heritage, bad heritage, both there. So but if a community, okay, is very secretive, or means about possessive about their heritage, and they do not want a certain section, certain portion of that heritage to be documented and to be brought in the public domain, we as a documenter, we as a means heritage professional must take care of that, must take care of that. Therefore the informed consent is very much required, that we should, because there is also ethical obligation, moral obligation also is there, means that makes us the actually the professional, if we have the some ethics of profession. Therefore what means suppose I'll just give you like dowry. Now dowry is not a good means part of tradition. So some, then dowry just one means I'm telling you, like sati pratha was not a good part of the tradition. So in many communities, especially in many means the tribal communities, if you visit to some tribal villages, I mean meet some tribal communities, they have many sort of these kind of practices, or sometimes they have many such kind of occult practices which they do perform, but they do not want to reveal, or they do not want to share with the outer world. So as a documenter, okay, as means we must not means include that, okay, in order to make our documentation complete, or means bringing some very exclusive information. We must not do that. So we must take care of the consent of the concerned community, okay. And therefore so in order to identify which heritage the community wants to share, which heritage they want to share and want to protect for their benefit, for the benefit of the state at large, or the benefit of the nation, okay, which can also have potential for the revenue generation, okay. So taking the community involved in it, we can do the documentation, and that documentation process here means we are terming it as cultural mapping. Cultural mapping. So when we talk about the cultural mapping is understood as a process of identifying and stating in the written and visual inventory all cultural artifacts, the assets within a specific geographic region. This includes the gathering of tangible and intangible assets from the community, included but not limited to cultural organization, artists, and stories. So it can encompass many sort of things. Yeah. So now, what's the name? Yeah. So cultural mapping provides an understanding of culture, history, and a community's unique identity that should be used at the beginning of any community's development or planning project to create a list of potential partners, community resources, and tools need to a successful implementation. And therefore, input is sought from the community to guide the development of a plan to create a map of community network and assets. And let me tell you, by the cultural mapping, suppose a site is a site is to be developed, say for example, for tourism. So it should be developed in such a way with the community's consultation that there is no over tourism, that the interest of the community is intact. The community also gets the benefit of that, and the community should not be at the receiving end of all those the tourism, etc. And therefore the cultural mapping process becomes very important. So I'll just give you a little bit of like the understanding of what do we understand by the cultural assets is that the assets are facilities, organizations, people, ideas, customs, and relationships that contribute to a way of life in a specific place. Culture includes the assets, include the arts, heritage, beliefs, and environments that make up or the individual identities. What do we understand by community is simple, is that community refers to a group of people within a specific geographic areas, cities, neighborhood, states, and regions. Okay, and what is the utility of cultural mapping is the education. It promotes awareness of ethnic, linguistic, and religious diversity. Okay, so it helps in bringing the diversity into the map. Okay, so that we understand that okay, their presence is also there. Okay, and it helps in education. Okay, and the community also gets educated through the cultural mapping process, and this also adds supplements to the current event stories like migration. So we have to look about the migration of the tribes or the people, and the demographic changes, ethnic changes, or the religious conflict. These all helps in doing the cultural mapping of the site of the community and their intangible cultural heritage. Okay, yeah, so maps, it adds in the cultural protection, preservation, and awareness. Maps to preserve threatened aspects of culture, language, biodiversity. So some language or some biodiversity which is near to extinct can be brought up in the public domain, can be brought up in the notice of the stakeholders, especially the government and the NGOs and those who concern about that, so that that can be protected and preserved. Then the marginalization. So suppose some group is marginalized. So this is cultural mapping is a very good tool by which we can bring the marginalized one into the mainstream line. Okay, and it can also like sometimes resolve the conflict by identifying a proper mapping. So then we have to, this leads to some kind of negotiations, like when you involve the community in describing, in addressing the issue of heritage, and how, if we have to develop some sites, how to develop some sites, what are their areas, wherever their interest lies, how much areas they concerned about. So they have to discuss about and negotiate in terms of rules and the boundaries of protected areas, what kind of areas they want to is protected, settling land claims and disputes over administrative boundaries, resolving conflict with other parties, monitoring, managing, and protecting natural and cultural resources. So these all like cultural mapping can help in also negotiating with the government. Suppose government has some kind of a development agenda. Okay, so while doing the development, the plan and program, they can also consult the community who has done this kind of mapping, so that the community knows exactly that this is the area of their interest, This is the things of their interest. Okay, and these are the parties need to be consulted whenever any development plan or any development activity has to be initiated. So this cultural mapping, and who will do the cultural mapping? It is the community led initiative will take place, and who will facilitate the cultural mapping? It is the heritage professionals who help in doing this cultural mapping with the help of community. Okay, and this actually gives lot of rights and lot of power, lot of understanding, okay, of the importance of the cultural head of the heritage of the community, because sometimes community may not be aware of all the importance, all the benefits, all the importance of their culture. So the heritage professionals comes here in doing the cultural mapping and identifying all those things, conflict zones, the good things, all sort of things. So whenever they have to consult or negotiate with government, the cultural mapping is already in place, which can facilitate in further negotiating with the different stakeholders. Okay, so these are some of the things which is helpful in the negotiation. So I will quickly pass with that, and I will share this PPT with Dr. Vinod. Yeah, and so the cultural process we have already, I think, discussed this. So cultural mapping allows individual to discuss and identify multiple as well as shared stories of their community. Main aspects in the progress of ICH mapping, that it identifies cultural resources. Okay, it might become asset for local, national, or regional branding. It can also create sense of pride and convert local citizens in brand ambassadors. Okay, it can raise awareness of ICH element of a particular community and their safeguarding. It can foster cooperation and creativity for local citizens and tourists. Okay, it involves community groups, individuals, and governing bodies in the process of understanding local cultural heritage. Okay, so these are some main aspects of process of ICH mapping and destination branding. If we have to build some, develop some site for some economic gains, okay, but we have to also take care of that it should not be overused for politicals, and you should not have the some ideological agenda or political agenda. Over commercialization of products using the high awareness of ICT element, thus endangering the bearers. So it should not be over commercialized, or it should not be overused, because overuses of places of practice of ICH element, not permitting the proper uses of place for the ICH practice only. Okay, so these all things should be taken care of. Yeah, so what are the risks involved here in doing the cultural mapping? So I think some of that we have already discussed, but let me read out some things here. The mapping that is not truly driven by the will of the committee and doesn't represent the different interests of the committee may end up being an extractive exercise that abuses people's trust. So this we have already discussed, that the committee's interest should be center of any kind of the cultural mapping discussions and activity. So the interest of community should be central. And then the mapping may raise expectations in poor communities about the new resources and income, which, if not fulfilled, may lead to disappointment. So this is also very important, a risk. One should take care of that. The poor communities should not be shown so much expectations. Okay, we should not build a lot of expectations in the poor community, which, if not fulfilled, definitely it will be very, very disappointing for them. And then they will look all this project and initiative with a greater disdain. So committee is not homogeneous, and equal mapping can exacerbate marginalization and silencing within community. So communities also, sometimes the communities are not homogeneous. Okay, so cultural mapping should be done in such a way so that there is no further conflict arise between the community, and also between the gender. So gender issues also need to be taken care of. Okay, and while doing all those kind of cultural mapping. Okay. Yeah, so here we already discussed the valuable information about the rare plants, medicine, or endangered species may enter the public domain without control, can lead to further resource abuse. So yeah, so I'll just pass this because I don't want to read this. Yeah. Yeah, so the observation is now means it is the observation through the whatever we discussed is that the cultural and participatory mapping arise from different origins. Combining them help to strengthen indigenous and local people's capacities to express and defend their points of view, cultural practices, rights and aspirations, especially in the current context of globalization, where their ways of living are under threat. The making of map legend for cultural participatory maps provides an opportunity for successful intercultural dialogue and valorizing the indigenous and local voices. So I'll not read this, so I'll just pass through. Okay, so these are the some of the observations one should read at. Emanating from all those discussions. Okay, so I'll also pass this. What time we have? Okay, we have some time. Yeah, so I'll also pass this. Yeah, and we'll also pass this. I'll just take you to one men's case study here. Now the Cambodia, the Angkor Wat temple complex is very famous. Is very famous, you know, because it's a very big temple complex, and a lot of tourism happens. A lot of tourists visit every year, barring the previous year where there was a complete lockdown. So actually, what happens, you know, like when the tourists visit Angkor Wat, suppose I am going from here to see the Angkor Wat temple, my all intention, with good intention, is to look at, to appreciate the Angkor Wat temple complex. It is a World Heritage Site. But how much do we take care of the neighbors? How much do we take care of the local people, of their living tradition, of their people who still have some who have some kind of like attachment, sentimental attachment with these items, these site, these monuments. We generally, so what happens that whenever as a tourist, like if I visit and I see these things with complete isolation with all other forms of heritage. I just look at this, the tangible heritage, this monument and this complex site, we appreciate and we return back to our home. But then we see the heritage in isolation. So we need to expand widen our horizon of the understanding of heritage. And we also, if we understand the living heritage, if we understand the public there, if we understand their practices, their customs, and then when we connect with this means the tangible heritage, then we can have a complete idea of the heritage of a place like Angkor Wat. So like one of the defining features of World Heritage listing was Angkor's spatial, legal and political isolation from its immediate surroundings. This often results in visitor only traveling to Cambodia to see the World Heritage Site rather than visiting the country itself, and typically make little connection between Angkor and Cambodia. This is not to deny the importance of structural preservation within an architectural and archaeological imperative, but it does conceive thoughts of Angkor as a material heritage. So it's all about that means actually the commodification of the heritage should not be there. We have to also look the heritage from all perspectives, okay, to appreciate that. So now the government behind the surrounding the monuments is a living landscape where people continue a way of life linked to the people who created Angkor 1,000 years ago and prior to that pre-Angkorian period settlement. So this all tells about that if we have to appreciate the heritage, we have to look heritage in toto. So we cannot just look the material heritage in isolation. We have to consider other heritage also. And if we appreciate that, if we also look at that, then we, in some true sense, we appreciate the heritage, and it makes, so this is all about that. So I'll just pass quickly. Yeah. As said, that local people are the key holders of intangible knowledge and tangible assets, and they are capable of determining the types of cultural mapping sizes that are relevant and helping to produce them. Okay. In this way, the invisible may become visible, providing real insights into cultural diversity, history, identity, and knowledge. And this is the very sense of cultural sustainability. So I'll quickly wind up with this, because I will leave for reading. Okay, and this is also one of the site, the Beul. Okay, the places between the mountains, and how the Nepal government actually took the local community, okay, in promoting tourism. Okay, otherwise, because unless we involve community into develop, because Nepal government is promoting and also actually developing the tourism in those Beul region. Okay, and this project is also funded by the Ford Foundation to develop this Beul region. But then the core of this, all the project, is that the community consultation, and what to consult, how to consult, we have already discussed, and then we'll leave some for reading also. So with this, I will end my session here. I'll just, I had something, but I will leave this. Yeah, so there are some of the like selection of appropriate scope, level, and method of documentation. Okay, then yeah, so I will leave that. Ethical standard, that as I discussed, that means whenever we approach as a heritage professional, we must have some ethical standard. Then we should have also understand the documenter and respondent relations. Okay, we have to take care of the right of privacy, right of anonymity. Suppose someone wants gives you some kind of information, but they don't want to keep their name. Okay, so we have to take care of the anonymity. We have to take care of the right to confidentiality, and then informed consent, which we discussed in the beginning. That the informed consent is very much required, because there are many possibility of risk and injury or discomfort is also there. Okay, and we must take care of that. So we must, whenever we approach, we should have a prior informed consent, and only then we can help in any kind of like doing IP rights, addressing IP right issues of patenting or the cultural mapping with properly informed consent. So with this, I will wind up my lecture here. I'll stop sharing here, and I will take few of the some of the questions if.
Thank you, sir. Yes, of course, sir. We have a few questions here. Now I invite Mr. Venkata Madhusudan Rao to interact with you.
Yes, sir.
Sir, please go ahead.
Yeah. Good morning to you, sir. In fact, good afternoon to you. My question is, as we are talking of heritage management, as it is, even though it's a very old known subject, but it is neglected subject. And from the point of India, even now also India does not have any act on traditional knowledge. Even
Yes.
biodiversity is taking care of. And so many MNCs are coming, and they are specifically from the point of medicines. Okay.
Yes.
So many companies are looting India officially.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Sometimes maybe directly they are coming, sometimes through the joint ventures they are coming and doing, sometimes without giving any information to local tribal people, they are doing this. Then how can we arrest this?
Yeah, so very good question, sir. I would suggest tell you one thing. here is the scope. So whoever means here, the young ones, the students, means the master students or PhD scholars, you see here is the scope, because who will inform? Government cannot see everything, and the tribal ones who are the actually knowledge holders, the knowledge bearers, they don't know how to approach to the government. So who will be the negotiator? It is the heritage professionals who can help in negotiating that, who can means connecting the government, the stakeholder, and the community, the knowledge bearers. But who will do that? Because we do not have sufficient heritage professionals. So here, like, and you are means absolutely correct that many the corporates and especially the multinational companies are directly taking benefit of this, because the many of those the traditional knowledge are yet undocumented, and they are taking benefit of that, and they are getting patented on their name. Okay, sir. So I would just suggest that here those participants who are young participants, these college participants. Okay, here is the you please come forward. Here is like those are already in the field, they can definitely make effort. Okay, heritage professionals, but the students here come. Here is the scope to come in and empower the community, also protect the national knowledge, I would say, because when a multinational company documents and patents on their name, actually some of one vital information, a very traditional and the national knowledge, okay, from all points of view, the value, economic value, traditional value, all sort of value, we just lose everything. And therefore who will do that? Because government may not see everything. So it is the responsibility of the heritage professionals to connect the two parties with. And we have to also, there is one ethical, we have to make sure that the heritage professionals which are connecting the two parties should not take the undue advantage of that. So only I would say, sir, that this is my answer, that we need more heritage professionals in the field who can negotiate between the two parties and prevent from the multinational companies to do this kind of illegal patenting. Yes, sir.
So thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Venkata Madhusudan.
Yes.
Sir, we have another question. Is it possible to register TK with unregistered or neglected monuments? This is from Mr. Anil Gaekwad.
Yeah, so when you have a monument, you don't have to worry about the traditional knowledge. Traditional knowledge, you can patent traditional knowledge in terms of, suppose if we are preparing plaster or mortar, okay, so what should be the mortar composition, what should be the plaster composition, what should be the answer, what were the composition of the plaster or mortar in terms of monument. If we have some specific knowledge, the knowledge which is not in the public domain, which is not in the any research articles or in research journals, definitely we can patent that. Definitely we can patent that if we talking about patenting that knowledge. Otherwise, the Archaeological Survey of India takes care of all the monuments. So what we can do, suppose some kind of structure, suppose some kind of built structure which is not listed with the Archaeological Survey of either India or state archaeology, what we can inform them so that they can bring their surveyors, they can do and they can do all the historians and the architects, conservators, and also can consult with the local community so that the monument is identified, their historical importance is identified, okay, and that can be listed. So once this is listed in the archaeological site of India or a state archaeology list, so automatically then it will become the mandate of the government to take care of proper care of that. But regarding the TK how the traditional knowledge protection, as I said, like the preparation of a certain kind of plaster, certain kind of like mixture or composition, definitely, but we have to look that, because I'll tell you, like the many like Britishers before the independence, they have documented each and everything very meticulously. Okay, so we have to dig deep into the old information, and then the current scientific researches many have published. So we have to look into that. If something means, if we figure out that this is not in the public domain in any form, then we must go and patent that. And then patenting will not be difficult, because here is the composition, here is the knowledge. So then, and no one has, so it is easy to patent. And we have two type of patenting. First we should approach for Indian patenting, so we get Indian patent, and then we have to go for, then we can go for US patenting.
Sir, we have one question from Brishwar Pradhan. Ayurvedic knowledge can protect human beings with logically to save themselves, but still Indian people believe on mostly on allopathic treatment. How do you prevent this?
I would, so this if I answer, this will become more like a political answer, but please treat as an academic answer. The Ayurvedic field, actually Ayurveda has been given unfair in terms of importance in comparison to allopathy. Though allopathy, a lot of money every year, decade after decade, the government of India after independence, I can say that had invested in allopathy. So you have the brilliant, excellent surgeons, excellent the doctors who can compete and prevail, in the world, the medicine industry, medicine profession. But we have not invested. So it needs a lot of investment in doing the research in Ayurveda, and we should not expect the immediate outcome, because you have to invest for decades. Only then you can think about building a robust knowledge, okay, sound knowledge. And whenever the research happens, keep patenting. Patenting is that which can save us. I would say patenting is the process which can save us. So, and we need, so the like biology researcher, and I'll just tell you one thing, sir, that in JNU, Jawaharlal Nehru University, in 2019, they have started one course, masters in Ayurvedic biology. So we need to have this kind of course more in more universities where this kind of studies happen, because otherwise the biology students or chemistry students, they in microbiology or in the chemistry, they read things but not in a coherent way. We need to have a exclusive focus on the Ayurvedic biology, Ayurvedic chemistry. Only then we can do something good. And please bear in mind that even if you invest this year, if we expect next year, this is just not, we have to invest for decades. Believe in our system, believe in our scientists, researchers. Only then we can get some kind of importance of, we can build some importance of Ayurveda, and we can do the advancement in Ayurveda.
Thank you, sir. I think we have no more questions here. So we have one more question, sir. Sorry. It is from Dr. Michael Samana, sir. Sir, are you happy in preserving heritage places rather than revenue generating center? Are you happy in preserving heritage places rather than revenue generating center?
Yeah, sure. See, if it is about me, suppose if I have to take I'm taking as myself as a first individual, and then I'll put myself as a professional. For me, it is important that we preserve. Okay, preservation is very important for me. But why we want to preserve? This question I have to ask to myself. Why we want to preserve? If there is no value, I will not go for preserve, because while I waste my time and resources, energy to preserve anything, I will not preserve that. I will preserve only when, if I see some value in the preservation, then I'll put my effort. So what kind of value? Then I look for the value. That means if it has a historical value but may not be like the economic value. Suppose many the government aided museums, say for National Museum, they generally they don't get any they don't get any revenue generation from the public. Their tickets are for the school to college students just 1 rupee ticket. For the elderly, it is 20 rupees ticket. For the foreigners, it is 600 rupees ticket. But how much you can get with 10-20 rupees ticket, 1 rupees ticket? You cannot. So it is totally funded by the government, supported by the government. Why? Because it is a repository of our heritage. But in some heritage where there is a scope, where the scope of also revenue generation, like tourism, if we build some kind of, if we protect some kind of heritage site, if we build and develop some kind of heritage site and restore some kind of monument where we see that this monument has a lot of value, so public will come to see this, so we can drive the tourism there. We drive the tourism, so we can also definitely we can see economic importance to that in all my preservation effort, because also we have to look, it is not all our preservation efforts should not be divide of all economy, because it has to also create some kind of job. Okay, it has to also provide some kind of job, employment opportunities. Only then the community, how will you connect to the community, how will you uplift the community and everyone? So the economy, I will suggest that first you look the value. Okay, so it depends on the place to place and artifacts to artifact. Suppose some artifact is rare. Okay, suppose I'll tell you one thing, like the Kohinoor diamond. A Kohinoor diamond in the Tower of London, in the crown of the Queen Victoria, it is in Tower of London in London. If we get any, we will put more effort, more money and energy, more resources, more international negotiations to bring that money, because that is part of our history rather than the wealth of the value of the diamond. So it also means we have to establish first the value, and then we have to go ahead with the preservation effort. Is that satisfies your answer, the question? Or any other question?
So we have one more question, sir.
Yes.
This is from Mr. again from Venkata Madhusudan. Why archaeological department hiding some facts of carbon dating and other facts on some heritage sites?
I'm not aware of that we are hiding the facts of carbon dating. What I can assume, because since I also do the material analysis and my actually research is in material analysis, so what I can assume is that, look what happens, carbon dating, we do not have any carbon dating institution in India. Okay, I think there is one here, but most of the times the Archaeological Survey of India, I have seen that they send the samples to US for the carbon dating. Okay, and there the carbon dating dates are more or less so we can rely upon. Now suppose the historians have dated some artifacts that 5,000 years old, and the carbon dating results say that this is 2,000 years old. So that might lead to some kind of like debate. But my suggestion would be that we should not be afraid of those debates, because the scientific discovery can also boost and can also rectify the history. Scientific discovery, the inventions and the analysis can also boost and can complement the history. So not necessarily it is in any which way denigrating the importance and the research ability of the historians, okay, or the archaeologists. It is just we can modify and rectify. This is an evolution process. So this is the best what I can answer, being a material scientist. But I am not very much aware that the Archaeological Survey of India that hides the carbon dating result, when they have the carbon dating result and still they hide, that I am not very much aware of. Yeah, what was the other part of the question? I just forgot. What was the other part of the question?
I think are the departments running under political driven?
See, this is a everywhere. No, it's some kind of definitely many decisions are means politically influenced, nationally, internationally. International means pressure also sometimes happens. Many such kind of things happens. Like I'll tell you one thing. Like in National Museum, we have a lot of wall paintings from the Silk Route, which is part of China, from the Dunhuang region. Chinese government always means puts a lot of pressure on Indian government to return those artifacts. But actually, Indian government did not cut and bring here. It is the Britishers which cut and brought the artifact from the Dunhuang region to here. So this kind of things is like a matter of contention and a political contention. So this kind of debate will keep on happening. And also, even within India, there are certain, like if the government wants to celebrate some a specific festival, so they will give funding for a proper festival. So these kind of political things are always there, and it will always be there. So we should not be much bothered about that, as long as our profession means we are able to continue in ethical way.
Thank you, sir. So, dear participants, now we come to the end of this question session. I would like to thank Dr. Aditya Kant for his beautiful session, giving too many insights on right from beginning with the tangible heritage, intangible heritage, and you spoke about the differentiation between the tangible and intangible heritage and the importance given by the citizen, the leaders of the country and other stuff like that. And you also beautifully connected it with the value assessment, sir. And your expertise on cultural mapping process was really commendable. And at last, you gave a summarization on the risk as well. So that was really a complete factor. It made the session complete. I sincerely thank you for joining us with us in this session. And we are eagerly waiting for the session that you'll be appearing for tomorrow. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for your participation here.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And just tell you one thing, that means I have not highlighted much about the monuments in the tangible heritage, which I'm going to cover tomorrow.
Yes, sir. Sure, sir. We are waiting for it.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you. Dear participants, we come to the end of this session. The feedback link, the attendance link is already posted in the chat box. Kindly fill it. And as you know, it will be open for the next 15 minutes. Kindly fill in the attendance form. The link is available in the chat box, and it will remain open for the next 15 minutes. Now we are breaking for lunch. The next session will begin at 2:15 p.m.